build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.
Hello, everybody. We are broadcasting live today of Carnivore Muscle Ramblings number 54 from the Oxford Apartments number 214 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am Jerome Armstrong. Joining me, as always, is the incorrigible Jonathan Griffiths and the incredible, intelligent Coach Nicole. How are you guys today?
Not bad.
I'm fantastic. I learned today that Jonathan writes poetry. He's a poet. I don't know if anyone knew that, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, Chat GPT is quite powerful when you need it.
That was actually really good if that was Chat GPT.
Jerome taught me how to use it in the right way. So yeah, I don't know. We'll go for the chat. If you guys do have any questions, point them out by putting Q in front of the question. Be happy to oblige and answer them. Super chats are prioritized. I'll actually click on them first if I can. We'll get to them a bit sooner. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Anyway, how are you doing, Jerome? What's going on at the moment?
Doing well. So I had last week off. I was on vacation. Got back to the studio today. Did a workout this morning. A couple clients so far today. It's been nice getting into the swing of things again. But aside from that, kind of the same old, same old. How about you guys?
I worked out this morning for the first time in quite a while. Did a lower body workout, and I was stronger than I thought I was going to be. I actually felt really good. I thought I was going to be a little weakling and be frustrated because it's been about 2 months, but I actually felt pretty good and pretty strong. So pretty happy.
Awesome. I did a back workout today. No, I did a chest and shoulders and triceps workout today. Apparently, not too bad. Elbows a bit sore, shoulders a bit sore. I noticed that I was overtraining, to be honest. I took, I think, Sunday off and I trained Monday. I think that just wasn't enough. And so when I went through my lifts were absolute pants. I'd say some of my lifts in terms of like strength endurance, say, were actually like 20% lower than the previous sessions. That tells me I've way overdone it. And it's strange because I'm actually better fed now because I'm eating a lot more food for last week. So increased protein and fat to like 300 grams or something. So I'd think I'd recover better, but just goes to show recovery isn't just eating a load of food. It's also recovering between workouts, giving your body that time to adjust and rest. So I've definitely taken the piss there. So yeah, other than that, not bad.
You're pushing back against the old adage that there's no such thing as overtraining, only undereating.
Oh no, it's still only undereating, of course. It must be. So that means more Pop-Tarts and more, I don't know.
Haribo.
What's it called? Haribo, and what's the other one? You guys have barbecue sauce. Sweet Baby Ray's or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Like
someday when I visit you, I'm going to bring you a whole case of it.
The sugar-free version, please. They're excellent.
No, I'm going to be as bad
full sugar
as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent some stuff over to Matthew recently. I sent him like some British carnivore sort of style snack things, and he thought they're quite good. Yeah, we don't get much over here. Our keto selection's even worse than you guys, so we won't find anything of use. All right, I'm going to go through some questions, I reckon. I'm just going to address everyone in the chat if I can. So the big ducks here. Nice, Rick. I just watched your video on ducks mating. That's quite educational. 35 seconds of glory.
I say the same thing about my mating.
Whoa.
Yeah. At a push. Foreplay doesn't count.
I don't even know what that is.
No, I don't bother. It's a waste of time. Hit the like button. Yeah, you better do that. I think so anyway. We've got Alicia in today. It's nice to see you. You don't usually make it this time. It's probably, I don't know, before work for you right now. Hope you're doing well. Matthew. Nice to see you, Matthew. Thank you for joining. I think Matthew's from somewhere in the UK. He was on Coach Stephen and Richard Smith's podcast yesterday. It seems to be in a lot of us British people's YouTube channel, so that's cool. Question. So Matthew asked, We'll let Nicole answer this one first if she likes. So, although coconut oil isn't carnivore, would you say it's the cleanest plant cooking oil to use? I don't do well with butter, ghee, or rendered fats. Olive and avocado oil taste disgusting. Love.
I like the pukey emoji. Yeah, coconut oil is usually what I recommend. It's the cleanest. Olive oil is not regulated, at least here in the United States. Other countries like across the pond where Jonathan is, it might be different. But here in the United States, avocado oil is a close second to what I would typically recommend. But yeah, coconut oil is, as far as oils go, is the cleanest you can get as far as being the most natural as an oil goes. And as you will probably learn as we go on the stream, I am not zero carb, I guess you will say. So I personally don't see a problem adding something like coconut oil or avocado oil if you like avocado oil. It's really not going to make or break the bank at all, especially if you're only using it for cooking. It's not going to do any damage using it using a minimal amount.
Nice. Jerome, what do you think? We're probably not going to have conflicting answers on this one.
Yeah, I would say coconut oil is probably number one, avocado oil number two, at least with cooking. And then if you want to use like olive oil to top things off, fine. But if you're going to use a cooking oil, preferably one that can be extracted just with physical pressing and not any kind of chemical extraction. And to my knowledge, it's pretty much only coconut and avocado and olive oil.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'd cook with coconut oil. I wouldn't personally cook with avocado oil. And I would not cook with olive oil. So yeah, but coconut oil is the only plant oil I'd actually cook with myself, just because it's got such high smoke point. It is a saturated fat. It doesn't tend to mess up the flavor too much with food. Depends what you're going to use it with, though, of course. A lot of people don't do well with ghee and butter. It might just be a temporary thing as well. It might be that for now you don't do well with it. All I'll say is with coconut oil, if you have too much, some people can experience some diarrhea and loose stools. So be careful with that one. I've noticed that I'm able to take in an amount of MCT powder or oil just because I get given a load of keto powders and things all the time. So for me, it's like I use it sometimes. Like today, I've made my carnivore protein butter bites out of an MCT protein powder style thing. So I had like collagen peptides and MCT powder in it. Then I melted that down with butter, and that was essentially my carnivore protein butter bites. So it's kind of carnivore-ish, but yeah, I do well. I do well with that, and it's not too bad for me to digest. Yeah, it makes good soap as well, apparently. I've been asked to do a review on a whole selection of like tallow fragrance products. There's a company over here in the UK that does it, so I'm going to do that at some point. I don't know why they reached out to me though, because I don't really look like the person who takes much care of themselves. So I don't know. Maybe I'll find out.
I have so much I can say right now.
No, I was just processing. So I'm still getting back in the swing of things.
Same. I'm quite far behind at the moment. I'm about probably 2 minutes behind.
All right. So unfortunately, Nicole, you're going to have to carry the live Q&A today. Jonathan and I are going to just ride your coattails.
Yeah, and this is only decaf. Not a good idea. I'm going to press some buttons. I wish Nicole was able to press buttons. We have not got many questions tonight, so we might just end up rambling.
You can make people co-host, I learned that, and other people can push buttons.
How'd you do that?
I think you can. I think I saw that.
I think the same way that you did for me, Jonathan, because I can do the same thing, the highlighting, the transitions, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can actually. That's right. Maybe I'll do it next time. I don't know if there's a limit of 2 accounts though. Maybe. I don't know. Well, Sophie's on it, isn't she? So it should be fun. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to the chat and stop ignoring everyone. Do you wash your ducks with it? Soapy ducks. Three Stooges. Sounds about right.
Which one's a bald one? Is that Mo?
Jerome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Curly had a shaved head. Larry was
it Curly?
Curly's head was shaved. Larry had like the fishbowl.
Okay.
Long,
So
wiry
you're
hair.
Larry?
Sure, whatever.
Cool.
I need to press some more buttons. Jerome has had a haircut, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it's getting a little bit long.
Yeah, at one
So-
point you look like a bit of a state.
So I cut it. I ordered
When you get to my age, you can start going clean shaven.
I ordered a Floby off an infomercial and hooked that bad boy up to the wall. So
Yeah, I have a good shave sometimes. What's your favorite shaving utensil, Jerome?
I just need a second. I have a double-edged safety razor that I really like when I shave my face or shaving my neck. One blade lasts me probably 6 months, and it gets really quality shave.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. We really need more questions in the chat, I think. We've never had such deficiency of viewers and chat members. Questions. I was watching more ducks mating. Must be a side effect of feeding them dumpster meat, maybe. Well, it's because you keep eating them. They have to repopulate. It's part of the issue. Question, not question, says Maddie says no, Jonathan, when she heard your voice. So imagine right now, Sophie's probably lying in the bed with Tilly next to her. Maddie's on her chest, like probably sucking a thumb or drinking some milk from a bottle, with her teddy, which we call a goy goy, and it's just like an elephant thing, which is like attached to like a hanky, but it's like a soft sort of, I don't know, what you call it, like a tiny little rug thing. It's probably called something, but yeah, they're pretty cool. And yeah, she has this habit now. So when she gets up in the morning, Sophie will get her up, bring her into the room where I'm sleeping, and she just goes, "No," when she sees me, like, just tell me off. Like I've just woken up like minutes earlier, and it's like, "No." Then what she also does is when she goes round from like the kitchen to the lounge, and she sees me, she goes, "No, no, no." I'm being told off all the time by this freaking 18-month-old. It's a joke.
Just wait till they get older.
Yeah. Anyway, hi family, lifting heavy now. Push day, not bad. I did push as well today.
Excellent.
It was crap. Jerome, you training at all this coming week?
Well, I'm gonna just base it on feel. So I did full body today. I did a big 6 horizontal push and pull, vertical push and pull, leg press, and a time static contraction deadlift. And I was pretty wiped out for about an hour after that. So I'll get another workout in probably Thursday. Play the one by ear, see if I feel like doing another full body or doing some kind of split. But just gonna see how I feel.
Fair enough.
What
That's
about
cool.
you guys?
What about you, Nicole? You lifting again this week?
Yeah. So I used to do push pull, but now I kind of just do upper lower. I'm trying to get in at least 3 days this week because I'm just getting back into it. So I just break it up into upper lower and then usually end it on a walk on a treadmill at an incline. I don't run anymore, so I just walk on an incline for about 20 minutes, just watching YouTube videos.
Not bad. Yeah, my workouts are pretty much, if I'm at mine, it's like 15-minute cycle to and from the gym. I'm in there for a total of like an hour at max, really. If I'm training with a friend that I'll see down there, we'll just end up chatting and we'll just end up doing it over like an hour and a bit, maybe. But yeah, I've got a leg workout. No, not leg workout. I've got a pull workout tomorrow. So we're going to do probably 2 row variations, 1 pull down variation, a forearm curl, a bicep curl. I'll probably get bored and just go in. Yeah, I get pretty fresh from that, but I'll have to be careful of the volume. I'm training with a guy that is quite a big guy, but he's not been training the same way that I train. So his intensity is a bit different, but he's doing like 3 or 4 sets and I'm doing like 1 or 2. And it's like, I'm just going to wait here for a bit for you and you can carry on and I'm going to chill for a bit. But yeah, it's like he does his set, I do my set. So I'm doing 2 sets and he just does the extra basically.
And then there's any kind of help with forced reps, maybe on that last repetition or so? Do you guys help each other out with that? Do you just yell at each other while you're lifting?
He sort of eggs me on. I'm not really a motivator kind of person. I tend to let people do it just so I think people don't often need that kind of like push. I think when they see me train, when they when they actually see me train, they're like, "Oh, I want to train like this guy." So they actually try a bit harder. So I notice that every time you train with someone, you train just a little bit harder. But with me, I have to try a bit more reserved if they're more similar strength to me, because otherwise I'll try and achieve what they're trying to achieve in the gym. It might be that they're doing more than me, so I'm like, maybe not. Just back it down a bit. I try not to let ego get in the way. Yeah, he's helped me with a few force reps. We did some push downs today, so I actually did them where it was like an EZ bar. The cable was quite high, and I just pushed it down rather than extended it down, sort of thing. So it wasn't nearly as strict, but my shoulder wasn't feeling right in that crunched up position, so I just didn't do it. Still felt good though, but I did like 6 reps on the stack, and it was ridiculous to hold. Like, see, here's my hand's like shaking like that as I was pushing it down. Meanwhile, he's trying to use the like the ringlet thing to like pull it down so I can get the weight down into the the loaded position.
It'd be easier if you tried to lift the stack.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's common sense for you though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, so we're gonna go here. So Sophie said, "I've lost 0.9 kilograms in 1 week with my new tracking system. Video incoming."
Awesome,
very exciting. That should be good. Yeah, Sophie's putting out some quite nice, helpful videos. For a lot of people, it's not like a video you watch to like gain loads of information, learn any skill. It's more kind of like emphasizing what someone else is doing. Someone else might be in the same sort of position as you. Provides that relatability and what kind of things she's adding to a diet or getting rid of, or how she's tracking things, what she's thinking about, all the mindset stuff, which is, I think, quite helpful. I think it's quite an undervalued asset in this community, because I can make videos all day about, do this, do that, but getting people to apply to it is the most important thing. So I think there should be more people out there just saying, oh, this sort of diet I follow, I slip up sometimes, but this is what I find useful. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as we seem to have found out, Nicole, haven't we?
Yeah. And she's definitely more relatable, and it's good to have more women in this space too. So yeah, I like seeing more and more women coming on board.
Yeah. So this just made me smile. Rick said coconuts are also double as iguana defense weapons. What was that thing we had before about? It was like a banana or something falling on his head.
I think it was I think it was an iguana used a coconut to try and kill him, so that the coconuts go both ways.
Yeah, it was like 4 months ago or something. Yeah, with that. We're going nuts now. We'll talk about that for ages. So Matthew said, I wanted to add in a third meal, and he did add Q before the question, apparently, into my day, but I never feel hungry in the morning. Is drinking beef protein isolate powder with citrulline powder, taurine powder, coconut oil a good breakfast drink? Personally, I wouldn't mix in the citrulline with it unless it's a fruit flavored, more acidic, citric acid based kind of protein powder. I think if your beef protein was more of a milky protein like chocolate or vanilla, that sort of flavor, then I wouldn't be adding citrulline to it. I found taurine to be pretty much benign in terms of flavor. When you add it to a shake, that's a normal size. But if you add it to a shake, but it's like a tiny little shake, it will taste a bit off, maybe a bit chalky. I don't know. But yeah, it sounds like a pretty good option. So I'm just going to read back what he said again, just so I can interpret how I'd act. So I want to add in a third meal into my day, but never feel hungry in the morning. I'll probably look at your recovery. Sometimes your body is deliberately trying not to recover, so it'll actually reduce your intake of food. If your body's thinking, okay, I'm doing so much, but I'm not recovering properly, your body will give you a sign to sort of say, be less active, do less, sit on the couch more, eat less food, so you don't have as much energy. So your body could be trying to downregulate your metabolic rate so that you're recovering better by virtue of doing less activity. But I don't know. I would actually probably add something like that at the very end of the day, when perhaps you've had, say, your meal 1, meal 2, maybe you've had lunch, you've had a late dinner or late afternoon dinner, then just have the shake just before bed. That might be a better option. If you're not specifically hungry in the morning, I'd probably not eat. One trick I do use, though, sometimes is if I know someone's got poor appetite, I'll add in some sort of hyperpalatable carnivore food. So for a lot of people, that is going to be dairy usually. So you're looking at like a whey protein butter bite that I make. There's other options you can make out of different foods. You can, I believe, melt down cacao nibs, then add in a protein powder to that, and that will create like a keto brick butter bite style thing. So that's an option you have as well if you don't want to have dairy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That'll probably be meal. I probably wouldn't have that drink before the gym. At least I wouldn't have the beef protein, just because it won't have much electrolytes in it, so it wouldn't really help you in terms of your training that much. But I'd still take the citrulline and the taurine before the gym. I probably wouldn't add in the coconut oil because I don't really see the point. I'd probably just keep that mixed in with another meal just to bump up the fat in another area. What about you guys? What would you do?
Nicole?
Jerome just wants to sit back and chill.
No, I think I spoke before you last time, so
That's fine. I'm just giving you crap. I haven't given you crap in a while.
that's fair.
I guess the question I would ask is, if you're not hungry, why are you trying to incorporate the third meal in? Why? I'm just trying to understand what the purpose of adding a meal in if you're not particularly hungry. But another thing you can try is just beef bone broth, just drinking beef bone broth or chicken bone broth. It's a good source of protein and nutrients and all that good stuff. You can get the same effect, and it shouldn't fill you up overly much. But that's another thing worth trying. But yeah, I'm just curious what the point of adding the third meal in. Are you trying to like prepare for a show or like bulk or?
I think they're trying to gain muscle. Usually, not always, but when people come on here and ask about like adding in meals or trying to increase intake, I usually guess that they mean to build muscle. It's a good question to ask though.
Yeah, I would try that if you're not particularly hungry and that drink doesn't work for you. Another option would be to just look at beef bone broth. It's a good good source of protein, nutrients. You get your fats. So I would check out beef bone broth or even chicken bone broth as another option.
Yeah, good show. What would you think, Drew?
Sure. So I guess I'm answering this question under the assumption you're trying to add some mass to your frame, quality mass. And basically your 1 or 2 meals that you're having a day are making you full and you feel like you can't eat anymore. So if that said, you want to add a third meal and you're not really hungry, drinking your food is a great way to have it be a little bit easier on your stomach than sitting down and eating a big plate of meat. So in that regard, depending on how big the shake is, if it's relatively small, then I don't have a problem with it. I think it might be a good idea. Probably won't fill you up too much, but adds a little bit more protein, some fat to your day. Otherwise, if it's relatively big, I would split it in half, maybe have one in the morning and then one right before bed, and then your other 2 meals or so as you would normally have them. Not sure on citrulline. I normally take my taurine straight with water, and it does contribute a little bit of a taste. But I've never used citrulline. I'm not too well read on it. So Nicole and Jonathan know far more about that than I do. But yeah, I would have no problem taking that shake first thing in the morning. And if it's a big shake, if it's like 50, 60 grams of protein and you're trying to put some mass on your frame, I'd probably split it up, have half of that shake in the morning, half right before bed, and just your normal meals, whatever your schedule allows.
That's sensible. Yeah. Yeah, but basically try and get as much food in as you can throughout the day, and ideally eat it when you are actually hungry. Choose a carnivore option, preferably. What else have we got?
If I can plug Jonathan for a little bit, I think I don't know if it's out on your general channel or if it was members only when I saw it, but you have a carnivore mass building protocol video. I believe that's
a freebie. That's a freebie one.
Okay. So yeah. I just want to plug that video. If that's the reason why you're thinking about incorporating that third meal or that shake into your day, be sure to give that video a watch.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in that video, you're right, about how to add things in and where. Usually it's best to follow your body's hunger signals. If you're having, say, 2 meals per day, usually, and you're looking at a third meal, it might be more viable or a less abrasive approach to actually have that same protein shake split in half between the 2 meals that you are having. So there's a IFBB pro bodybuilder right now called Samson Dowder. And when he's trying to build the most amount of muscle, he actually adds in, the whey protein shakes and things like that to his meal. So have, 5 or 6 big meals a day, but then to top up each meal with more leucine few more amino acids to spike muscle protein synthesis to actually add that shake to a meal. And that's something I've done for most of my bodybuilding career, if it were. I found mixing protein sources to be better than having things in isolation, which is kind of contrary to what people say. You know, they say, you know, have lean, isolate whey protein after the gym, have casein at night. But the reality is, it doesn't really work that way. You want to get the biggest amplification of protein. You got to be basically picking at as many sources as possible with a complete protein nutritional profile. I think I found it effective anyway. There we go. We've got 3 or 4 answers. Yes, he's from Norwich. That's quite far north. They have different accents to me up there. Reality is on the map, it's like that far away, but you know. Nice to see you, Andrew. Thank you for joining. So Tallow Glow is great. I'm hoping so. I hope it might make my head a bit more smooth. I've got this horrible rash on my skin. I think everyone's seen it, but like, can't really tell. But I've hidden it under this black thing, so I'm trying to not scratch it. It's so itchy. It's so annoying. I've got a little bit on this side, but it's not quite as bad. But yeah, I've put all the creams on it. I've done the medicinal route. I've done the stuff they give you to like, antibiotic stuff. I've tried like the lot, and I'm like, well, nothing's helped it. So I'm thinking, like, how strict do I have to be with my diet, and what do I have to do to heal it? Like, do I have to literally just do like a 2-week water fast to heal it? I don't know, but it is itchy as hell. So if there are any skin experts out there that know anything, I'll be interested in hearing what you have to say, or link me, or email me, or refer me to a video. That might be helpful. So I'd appreciate that if anyone.
I've heard in a recent discussion that, and I don't know about the whole oxalate dumping thing. That's not that's not my thing. But I had a discussion recently in a live where oxalate dumping was discussed, and they said that it can happen years down the line and all that stuff, oxalate dumping, and one of the side effects can be a rash. So yeah, I'm not sure what that is one of the, I guess, supposed side effects of oxalate dumping. And apparently oxalate dumping can happen years down the line too. That's just what I heard on the last live discussion I had.
Yeah, I'm about 75% certain it's oxalate dumping. It could be related to my younger eczema years as well. I get it here and there. It tends to be between seasons. It tends to get worse when the temperature changes a lot. But yeah, the first year, let's say the first 6 months I tried Carnivore, February 2020, I got these rashes on my shins, and it was like sore welts, like white bumps, like pussy as well if I itched it. Then they very gradually start to go down, as in like the welting, the pussiness went. Then now I've just left with these like red spots like that big all on my shins. And they faded a lot, both those, but they look like bad scars, basically. But it's weird. That's where I seem to get rid of oxalates. Then that's cooled down now, so I don't get itchy there or anything. And more recently, it's been a bit around the wrists and a little bit around the elbows. So yeah, maybe you lose it in different parts and different areas of the body over different times. I don't know. So it might just be a time thing, but it is so irritating because I've tried all the creams now, and I've had this for probably about a year now. It's not dropped off. And you know, when they say oxalate dumping, they say, you know, it comes and goes in phases. You might get it years down the line. The detox might last a few weeks, then it'll ease off a bit. I've tried, you know, adding in, you know, the 2 meals I have a month for family, which like just basic sort of Western diet meals really for the most part. That doesn't seem to ease it, so I don't know. I'll be curious if anyone's had any similar experience. Breakcast, do you have any idea what percentage of current carnivores will switch to a mixed animal-based diet in a few years? Looking at the small demographic we've got here, we've got Nicole, who's been animal-based for about what, like a year, maybe?
Yeah, since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so about a year. Mia's been about 3.5, and Jerome has been like 50 years. So between that, then if you work out Nicole's now more animal-based than carnivore, generally speaking, slightly speaking, then you can say, or 1 in 3 of us. I'd probably estimate that most people are just animal-based, but people that are strict carnivore, I'd say about 80% of them will probably stay carnivore. That's my guess anyway. What do you guys think? You probably speak to different people, or do you come across different videos? I mean, what have you noticed?
I mean, it depends on what you consider carnivore too, because I've heard so many varying definitions of carnivore.
Meat,
Like,
fruit, honey.
yeah. Are you counting carnivore like true just meat and beef and salt, or are you counting carnivore beef, salt, dairy? Or are you counting carnivore all meat like chicken, fish, and all that? So I've heard like if you're 80%, 85%. So it depends on what your definition is. If you're looking at true carnivore, like lions carnivore, like zero carb, then I think the percentage is very, very low of people who actually just stick to beef, because butter technically is dairy. So unless you're eating salt and on steak or beef only, is that the true definition of carnivore? If you're talking 85%, I think more people fall aligned to 85% than they do true carnivore.
Mhm. Jonathan, you going through settings or looking something up?
I'm checking my systems.
Gotcha. I'll give my answer while you do that then. Yeah, with Nicole, we kind of have to define terms. If we're talking about people that can stick to red meat, salt, water, maybe small amounts of dairy, I think 99% of those people are going to fall off. They do it for a while, but then eventually they incorporate other things back into their diet. If we're talking about people that are just generally animal based and get 75, 80+% of all of their food from animal-based sources, then I think sustainability rates, the very, very high. And I basically just reiterated whatever Nicole said. But really it kind of depends like why people are getting into it in the first place. Or if it's a healing protocol for them, then they're far more likely to adhere to it. And Anthony Chafee had a great social media post on that recently, how yes, a strict carnivore diet is hard, but living with autoimmune disease, living with cancer, living with some of these other terrible health conditions is harder. But if people are doing it just for a short-term thing and then with the goal of working foods back in to see what agrees with them and with what doesn't, then good on them. And really, I think we all just want, in general, people to be healthier. So whatever gets them further down that road, awesome. Good on you.
Perhaps it'd be useful for us to make a video at some point about the definitions of carnivore. I'd say, carnivore, generally speaking, is meat, fish, dairy, eggs. I'd say strict carnivore is meat, fish, dairy, eggs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say lion diet is beef, lamb, elk, bison, goat, I think. Salt, water, that's lion diet. I'd say relaxed carnivore is pretty much what I do. So that's like meat. I think I just said it, meat, fish, dairy, eggs, some seasoning here and there, but not a lot, not deliberately adding like vegetables and stuff. And some sweeteners, perhaps like sucralose, maybe. I don't know. Then I'd probably say hyper carnivore is 70% meat. Well, the foods I've just mentioned, animal foods, and 30% what have you. Animal based is 51% plus. Animal foods, which is it's pretty meaningless. It's not even ketogenic. So yeah, I don't know.
That'd be a good project, and hopefully within the community we can get some somewhat acceptance of agreed upon terms, because we've all seen it with the Facebook groups. People argue over definitions, and it causes more harm than good. I mean, some people online in the carnivore space are worse than the vegans.
No, I don't think so. We'll get to that later. There's a question coming up. We'll get to that later. I'm still trying to find questions, aren't I? Oh, here you go. There we go. Sorry. So Sophie asks, how long would you say is a good time frame to lose 5 kilograms as a mini goal, and main goal being 30 kilograms? I'd say probably knowing what I know about Sophie's history and how much she can lose and what she can achieve, probably 10 weeks, 5 kilos is quite a good, safe, approachable amount. 30 kilos, I think you'd be very small at 30 kilos. Probably, I think, of a year and a half. Just knowing how she's plateaued and how she drops fat. And if it's someone else, I might say, okay, you could do that in 6 months. But, you know, what do you guys think? How would you go about fat loss amounts and what's achievable?
Jerome,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, a kilo a week is pretty aggressive. Half a kilo a week, probably much more manageable for most people. But really, I guess my bigger concern is the long-term trend. I mean, if you're only losing 200 grams a week, but it's consistently 200 or 100 grams, whatever the number is, the trend is your friend. So don't get too caught up. And it's very easy with stepping on a scale to just put all your eggs in the one basket of what the number is on the scale. But really, more important than that number on the scale on that day is just, are you consistently making progress towards that goal? And in that regard, it doesn't matter if it's 100 grams every single week or close to a kilo a week. It's just about establishing those habits and consistently performing them that's getting you in the direction of that. So I would say most individuals, half a kilo to a kilo a week is a pretty good sweet spot for most people, but bigger picture, as long as you're moving in that direction, awesome.
I'll piggyback off Jerome. I don't know kilos. I know 30 kilos or with 35 kilos is about, wait, what's 15 pounds? Is that 15 pounds?
So 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds.
Thank you. Bob can attest. I'm not good at conversions, but I always like to advise my clients for an average, and knowing that weight loss isn't linear. It's like this. So on average, 1 to 2 pounds a week is what I promote, but I also don't promote the scale. If they are going to weigh, I always say weigh yourself every day, log your weight, and take the average at the end of the week, and that'll be your average weight change for that week. And then that way you'll also be able to see patterns that Jerome was mentioning and trends. I also go by how my clothes fit, or take measurements. I always like to see multiple ways to track progress, because the scale isn't fat only. So if you're losing fat, that doesn't mean the number on the scale is going to go down. It still can go up because of your hormonal fluctuations or whatever you ate the previous day or whatever you have going on. So I always like to see, that's why I always tell my clients to weigh every single day and just take the average at the end of the week, because that's a more accurate way of doing it than once a week or once a month, because you're not getting the whole picture. And then have at least one other way to track progress, whether it's measurements, whether it's clothes, take it before and after photos or whatever, and not just going by the scale slowly. I always like to see multiple ways of tracking progress.
That's a good proposal. Yeah, I didn't think of mentioning that. But it does remind me, apparently I've got an excellent video coming up about tracking body fat percentage. So basically go through 3 methods: so the body fat calipers, the body impedance scales, and having some pictures of like samples of people that are certain body fat levels. At least gives you a rough estimate. You can sort of work out that way. So there are ways you can do it without too much grief. Of course, you can measure yourself. Your waist and arm circumference is a good one. Your waist going down, your arms going up. You're in the best case scenario. But yeah, it's really good points there. Appreciate that. We have a question from Matthew. I enjoyed Jonathan Nicole's video debunking Paul Saladino. It must be a first. Surprised anyone liked it. When is part 2 coming out?
Go ahead, Jonathan.
It's coming out Wednesday, I think, isn't it?
I can check your channel.
Yeah, I think it's Wednesday or Friday.
It's the 25th.
Yeah, not bad.
So yeah, Wednesday.
Yeah, not bad. Yeah, it was a good one. So Nicole and I actually recorded, I think, was it Friday? I think it's Friday, maybe Saturday, with Nurse Kim. And that was, Jerome, that was spicy, honestly.
Ooh,
My
okay.
fault.
Ooh. I'll have to go back and watch. Let me make a note of that.
It's not out yet. It's Nicole's got the recording.
I have to send it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but honestly, that was like 2 hours long. We roasted some, well, we're quite critical of some people online.
Uh-oh.
So I was critical, kind of along the same lines as a part 1 and part 2, but yeah, I get kind of saucy and spicy in the part 2 video that's coming out, so it's
it's so bad, honestly. I couldn't believe it. I was actually, so I interviewed Bart K this morning, and I actually asked him about some of the things you said in that video, and he's so much more I don't know what it is,
Open.
mature. I don't know, there's a word for it, like he has an approach towards it, like, yeah, I think they kind of say that, but I don't know if they mean it like that. Obviously, I take things at face value a bit more, so I was like, yeah, you can't say that.
That's what
yeah.
I was saying. Like, that's what I was saying in that video. Like, it's not whether you say like plants are trying to kill you. Like, I don't know. Part of me thinks he means it quite literally, but even if he doesn't, like people are going to take it literally and take it too far. So it's like you have to be careful what you say, whether you intend it to be taken literal or not, because people are going to take it literal and run with it.
Yeah,
So
I've made the thumbnails for that one.
You took a shot at Chafee?
No, I didn't do
I
anything.
took a shot at someone else.
Okay. When you just said plants are trying to kill you, I'm like, ooh, okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mentioned.
Let's have a go.
Yeah, I mentioned that and something else.
Okay.
All diseases are because of plants.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plants cause cancer, plants cause all disease, heart disease, specifically just plants. That's from one of the big top influencers.
Sure. I wrote down a note to send you an email to ask for the video. So I'll be expecting a Google Drive link before the end of the day.
I'm seriously thinking of this video, and I'm like, I almost don't want to post it because I'm like, it's quite. Some things we criticize, and you'd think, why are we criticizing that? Like we criticize the way they made the video or something, or like the way they present themselves, and it's like, well, most people wouldn't think to criticize that, but we just like had to go at them basically.
You can chop some stuff out. I'm gonna post it.
I might test the algorithm by seeing what happens to your video, then post it a week or two after. But just remarket it, you know.
Wimp.
Oh yeah, ask the question. Yeah, Jerome's haircut does look very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just happy I still have hair. Sorry, Jonathan.
He put a fishbowl over it and just went around.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Wednesday video's coming up. Andre asked, do you guys find it useful to rotate exercise to avoid plateaus, or is it just not that important? That's a good question. I think it's certainly possible that people maximize certain movements, certain exercises to build the most amount of muscle on that. So, for example, if someone is long term, if someone is just doing, say, barbell back squats and leg extensions, and say they're as strong as they can pretty much get without breaking their spine and breaking their form, very unlikely. Say they're doing a 300 kilo squat and they're trying to do 10 reps, which is also very unlikely. At that point, yeah, by reducing the risk from rotating the exercise, it might be more beneficial. You'll get a new stimulus, less risk of injury. You'll be able to continue to progress from there. Generally, the standard model, from what I've seen, a lot of people that I respect online, is that you milk an exercise for as long as possible before you change it. The only changes you would make would be when an exercise is causing injury. Perhaps you have joint soreness, you're not covered properly. That's something else to look at as well. But the idea of novel stimulus is not as important if you're picking the right exercises. So if you think, okay, I'm going to build my legs and I'm only going to do hack squats, well, you know, you're not going to develop your calves as much as if you add in the calf exercise. Same with your hamstrings. So that's when you might think, okay, well, I'm not just going to do hack squats. I'm going to rotate it in with, say, a leg extension every other week. Say you've got, bad hips, you might have to not do a squat. Perhaps you just have to do a wall sit. You have to limit your range of motion. You might find different ways to cause less risk of injury. In terms of plateaus, muscle groups fire. They try to adapt to the stimulus. And as long as you can continue to increase that stimulus and force adaptation through recovering, I don't think that it's imperative to rotate exercises. What do you guys think?
Your turn, Nicole.
Kind of like Jonathan said, yeah, you want to, each exercise produces a different stimulus on the muscle and works it differently. And like, for instance, I used to do back squats all the time. but that works a different area of your quads and your glutes and all that stuff, right? But if you switch to a front squat, now you're getting a different stimulus while working the same areas. You're hitting, the quads more, for instance, than the glutes and your hamstrings or whatever. So I think it can be, in my experience, beneficial to rotate exercises in, because one, you're not overstimulating just one muscle group. Two, you are providing your body a varied stimulus for further muscle growth, because you still are working your hamstrings with the front squat, for instance. It's just not as prominent as a back squat. So you're still getting the stimulus. It's just firing in a different way. So I personally like rotating exercises because I think it's more beneficial for a complete workout, in my opinion. But I mean, this isn't my area of expertise, but that's just my opinion on the matter, and what I found has worked for me.
Fair.
Yeah, I was going to start answering this by saying it's interesting how Phil Heath put out a list of like the only exercises you need. C-Bum recently did one. Jonathan and I both did a list of, if we only had 20 exercises, which exercises would we do? There seems to be a growing trend, and I think the take-home message from that is to maximize your genetic potential. You don't need a vast assortment of movements. As long as, for the most part, you're hitting all the major muscle groups through primary planes of movement, you're going to get 95-ish% there. In general, I tend to look at variety within a workout routine as, if you just want to mix it up to make things a little bit more mentally refreshing, go ahead. Instead of doing a barbell curl, do a dumbbell curl. Instead of doing a underhand pull down, do an overhand pull down. I'm not a big fan of going wide, but if you want to go wide just to switch things up, cool. You got to remember, though, that every individual, sans people that have the Hercules gene, only have a certain genetic potential to build muscle mass. And as you get started, you're going to be moving quite quickly towards that potential. So initially, when you're earlier in your journey with trying to build muscle mass, yes, doing different exercises from different angles with different equipment will probably stimulate some deeper, synergistic muscles that you wouldn't hit as much doing some of those primary movements. That might get you to that limit a little bit faster. But when you train long enough, one, you don't have as much distance to go, but you've already built the vast majority of the muscle that you're ever capable of building. So if you're just starting off, I think a little bit of variety can be a good thing, can get you to that goal a little bit faster. But if you've been lifting for a few years and you're just trying to maximize and kind of keep what you have, you're not going to be able to create massive new stimulus by rotating exercises. Periodization in that regard doesn't really work. I tend to look at it kind of the same with Jonathan. I usually stick to a lot of the same movements for a long period of time, 6, 12, 14 weeks. And then if I feel like mixing it up, then I'll do something similar, but just slightly different. But in the long run, as long as you're training with sufficient intensity, giving your body what it needs in terms of recovery and proper diet, that's really all that matters. As long as everything is essentially getting worked somehow.
Yeah, I think most people could probably get like 90% of their muscle mass gains, maybe literally like 6 movements. So like 2 pushing, 2 pulling, 2 leg movements. Some people might just use squats. Some people might use a leg press and a leg curl, something like that. They're all a means to an end. They'll all cause muscle growth. You just got to pick ones that give you the most bang for your buck that you can do safely. And you might find in your gym, if you've got a well-equipped gym, it might have, say, 3 chest press exercises. Well, you don't need to do all 3 of them. You could just do one of them, do that for 6 to 10 weeks. You'll notice that your strength should go up and up and up. The problem is that I find is people's form will start to change and be less strict as they get close towards the end point of their strength progression. So for them, it might be more, I don't know, better to be more cautious about it. So, for example, you might say, I mean, if someone like Jordan Peters, he's a bodybuilder over here, he has a routine where he uses quite a bit more volume than he used to, but not because he needs more volume and thinks it's best. It's just because he can't apply enough intensity in each exercise because he'll rip his chest in half. When we actually look at the way he's training, he's an absolute unit, really big. but he would do like the heaviest chest press. He would have like 6 plates aside or something ridiculous. You think, well, for him, it might be more advantageous to just do 1 or 2 sets here, 1 or 2 sets there, rotate it around a little bit more. He might adjust his exercise selection, exercise order, so his preference. It might be that if you do, for example, a push day like myself, chest, shoulders, triceps, some weeks your body will respond better doing shoulders first. Some weeks it'll be better doing chest first. You can also change other things there. So it's not just the exercise you can change, it's also the order of each exercise you can change, which I think is quite useful. But it's so hard to map these things out. You couldn't really work out what you had to do unless you consulted with one of us, really. That'd probably be a best bet. But like I said, the same rules apply. It's about just training really hard, picking some movements that you like, that you feel safe in, and working from there. It's nothing magical. Hopefully that's a useful answer to you.
Do you like front squats, Nicole?
I do, because my quads were my weak area for a while, so that's why I switched to them. But yeah, it just depends. I prefer back squats, but it just activates different muscles that I just happen to be weak in at the time, especially during my knee surgery recovery. That really helped. But yeah, it activates the muscles differently, and for me, it helped me get strength in the areas I was lacking at the time. Plus, I think it's easier on your back, and it's easier. Personally, I just think it's an easier movement overall.
Yeah,
I disagree. Thanks. I think it's a horrible movement.
Front squats
overall. I liked them a bit, but I could never get my hands or body in the right way. I found if my arms were like that, I couldn't breathe properly. I think there's usually like a machine to do these things a bit better, like a V squat where you face into it. But, if you're a powerlifter, if you're trying to get as much muscular recruitment as possible, improve your balance, probably the best way is going to be for a barbell. But I'm not the biggest fan of having weights in my back or front. I think it's a bit scary. Sure. I'm a bit of a wimp, so there we go.
I always had a hard time on front squats getting the barbell in a position across my chest. It's just it was really tough. But even with back squats, I much prefer doing high bar versus low bar. And same kind of thing, like a high bar is a little bit more quad dominant, probably a little bit safer on the lower back due to posture. But low bar, you can handle some heavy ass weight, and it definitely hits the glutes and the hams a little bit more. So
yeah, people tend to blow out their lower back though, especially with the back squats, because I see so many people leaning way too far forward. The reason I like the front squat is, it's a pain to get your elbows, like to keep your elbows this way. But if you focus on elbows up on the way up, it forces proper form on the way up rather than the leaning over. So if you focus on the up when you're down in the squat, and you focus on, okay, elbows up, then you're forced to keep your torso up. Whereas if you're on the back squat, the tendency is to lean forward because you have all this freaking weight on your back and you're leaning forward. And I jacked my back doing that in the beginning, but that's why I like front squats a little bit better, because I personally think if you're focused on elbows up, it's much easier to have proper form, vice the back squat, which is easier to have poor form.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much why I stopped low bar squatting. Is I noticed that the fatigue was in my back, and that was the limiting factor, was maintaining proper torso stability and posturing. So my lower back was getting fatigued, and I would rack the bar and finish my set, and I would barely feel any fatigue in my legs. And granted, I probably could have built up lower back strength, but I started realizing it was kind of a risk reward thing at that point. And was I willing to continue to try and push the weight to improve my squat, knowing I had a tendency I was starting to lean over a little bit too much? No, not really at that point.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's like biomechanics, and I think for a lot of people, if you can get in that position, it's probably going to be a bit easier on the body. A weight's in front of you, you can kind of see it. It's a bit more easy to interpret in terms of like proprioception versus something on your back, which you can't really see. I don't know. I miss the good old days of squatting. Never mind.
I don't miss it at all.
I'm literally built really good for squatting, which is weird because my levers are all messed up. Sophie said, Jonathan and I trained together in the proper gym the other week, second time, I believe. Yeah, Jerome, they had entirely hammer strength equipment.
Interesting. All plate loaded leverage.
All of it, yeah, pretty much all of it. Some of it was quite good. Some of it is a bit weird. They had they had a forearm curl machine. You sit in this like seated calf raise sort of thing, just go like that. It's quite funny.
Interesting. Yeah, there's been a large push towards hammer, and I think people are starting to realize, at least when furnishing a gym, it's a lot cheaper to buy plate loaded leverage equipment than it is to get selectorized weight stack equipment. It's a lot easier to install too, and then obviously the people who are exercising it have to do the moving of all the plates. You don't have to work this 4,000 pound piece of equipment in a position. So I can see that.
Yeah, I might have to find more questions. Okay. Andy asked, I've recently been incorporating static holds and overcoming isometrics into my routines. Are you a fan of these? Jerome is, I am, Nicole might be. What do you reckon? Any good?
I don't know.
Okay. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of those, and they're all a little different. So an overcoming isometric would be like pushing against an immovable object. Then there's yielding isometrics, which would be like holding a barbell in a barbell curl position, and you essentially hold it as long as you can, and it's yielding because it permits movement. And a static hold is a static hold in that sense would be the same as a yielding isometric, but if we're getting really technical, that they're slightly different. If you haven't, I'm a big fan of time static contractions. It's essentially a overcoming isometric done with increasing periods of intensity over time. But I'm doing a video. This will be the next video I put out. I wanted to have it done by now, but it's not done, of why I think when properly performed, static holds, time static contraction, and isometrics in general may be preferable to dynamic exercise in terms of increasing size and strength. But I'll hopefully have that out in a week or so.
Excellent. Yeah, I like the static holds. I like the wall sit for quads. I did it today and I thought it was brilliant. I think managed 40 seconds. A push-up hold in the bottom position where it's really difficult. Mm-hmm. I might try it tomorrow. I might just do either maybe like a chin-up or something, or I might do something a bit easy, maybe a chest-supported row. Maybe that might do. I don't know. What kind of static hold would you do, Jerome? Do you do like a pullover or?
Yeah, so I usually with clients, I'll do static holds when I'm using a inadequate piece of equipment. Ideally, the equipment you have provides a decent amount of resistance that doesn't take away too much from the exercise that you're trying to perform. But my lat pull-down tower, it's a cable, but it tends to have kind of two sticking points in most movements. One maybe right around here and one right around the level of the chin. And I noticed that depending on the equipment you're using, if you don't get a good resistance profile, if the machine has a lot of friction, you can hit a sticking point, which a lot of people falsely equivocate with hitting momentary muscular failure, when in actuality, you just have a large discrepancy between the strength curve of your muscles and the resistance curve of the equipment. So in that case, I'll usually do static holds with people if I don't have a great piece of equipment, and I'll essentially load up as much weight as they can hold in a pull down movement. I'll have them hold it for 90 seconds. And if it goes up a couple of inches within the 90 seconds, then I keep that weight until they can hold it for that full 90 seconds. And that would just be a yielding isometric. But usually I do isometrics with people that have some kind of limiting factor, bad rotator cuff, knee replacement, joints that are bone on bone, stuff like that. Isometrics are a very easy and very safe way to still exercise the muscles that you're trying to exercise without putting the joint in a potentially compromised position due to some kind of underlying condition.
That's good advice. Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about back. I was thinking of exactly what you said about the strength curve and the resistance profile of the machine. So the one we've got, it is a variable resistance profile. It's a prime machine. A chest supported row. You can add the weight to the stack in 3 different places. I find it a bit weird, mostly due to injury. If I try to load it in the stretch position, it pulls my lower back a bit, so it's a bit awkward. So I tend to just keep it in the middle rung. So it's not a even profile, but it kind of works. So I'll do for now. But I'll try the underhand pull down you just recommended.
And I think
hopefully my biceps won't be too sore.
I think it's another reason a lot of equipments are going towards the hammer strength equipment. Not only is it cheaper, but plate loaded leverage is often single axle, very, very low friction. And because of that, you get a really smooth movement. Some of the old Nautilus machines that relied on chains and a lot of exercise equipments now use Kevlar belts, but you can still get a large degree of friction, especially during the concentric portion of the range of movement. So it's going to make it harder to lift a weight, but then due to friction, you're getting a lot less tension on the muscles when you're lowering the weight. So just friction in a machine, and you kind of have to just lift for a long time and try a lot of machines before you can really kind of get a feel for a good machine versus a more poorly designed machine. Just friction sometimes will cause me to use static holds with some things, or overcoming isometrics instead of conventional dynamic full range repetition movements.
We're here only for educational purposes. Just thought I'd say that. So, shall I just get straight to the questions, or shall I just go through the whole chat?
Either way,
I'll chat if you want.
it's your channel.
Yeah, sure, show.
I don't know how to operate these things. I'm a video creator, not a
All right, do you want to make
engagement
me the
officer.
control?
I would, but I don't know how to do it. I honestly don't know how to do it. Guests. No.
All right.
I think I'd have to do it before the stream on the home screen. Jerome's actually Jerome, do you want to do it?
Sure. What am I doing?
I'm just going through the comment section to see what's going on.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I started scrolling upwards to see where we were, but then
Got
I just
good engagement in the chat.
It's not highlighted anymore.
I'm actually delighted. Andrew's here today. So for those that don't know, I met Andrew at the Public Health Collaboration UK conference in the UK.
Oh.
And he's, I believe, don't quote me, 8 to 10 years in remission from a form of brain cancer, I believe. And he's used a paleo-ketogenic diet to maintain that. Very inspirational guy, and he takes his diet very seriously. So just goes to show it's definitely possible.
That's awesome.
Is that Nicole's channel?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait,
yeah.
Jerome can pop stuff up on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Jerome, Sophie, and I can. Yes, like I said, Jerome's been stealing my StreamYard for about 6 months, the bastard.
Yeah, Jonathan.
I feel like it's 4 streams he's done.
It's been very... It served me right for... Well, I was going to say how much research I put into them, but a lot of it is just I start working on a presentation. I'm sorry, I'm cutting Nicole's face off. I start working on a presentation, and then I just get frustrated with it, and I have to step away for a few days. So one of the more recent ones I did, I think there are 4 major meta-analyses supporting a position, and I read through every single one of the meta-analyses. That was 40 plus pages and everything, the entire study. And usually by that point, I'm just fried and I don't want to deal with it anymore.
If anything was that conclusive, the chances are it would have come to you beforehand, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if I can...
You would have come across your desk, you know what I mean?
If I take Nicole... Not take Nicole.
You can change the layout.
Okay,
I don't care.
Oh, I don't want to cut your face off, so there we go.
There you go.
That's better.
That's a bit better. Yeah.
Nobody wants to see my ugly mug.
Your fishbowl haircut?
Yeah. Yep.
It is a good question. Something about Rob Goodwin's. This is crazy. So today and yesterday, I've had about 7 or 8 interactions with people, including Bart K and Nicole, and now Jerome, and I think Sophie as well, and a few other people, about including carbohydrates in the carnivore diet, assuming you're watching this because you're a carnivore. What I say to that is, do you need them? No. Could they be helpful? Maybe. Have I found them to be helpful myself? No. Would I advise someone have them? No. But if something is broken, then perhaps you could fix it by adding them. So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I'm not really an advocate for it. If you are going to do it, there are better sources of carbs you can have. As we've probably mentioned this channel before. So we're looking at like the raw dairy, the trace amount of eggs, some fermented foods, some prepared foods in a certain way. Squash is not too bad. White rice isn't the worst thing to have. But it depends what your sensitivities are. I just personally wouldn't add them in myself. And generally speaking, the only reason why I've noticed people add them in that I've worked with is because they've got a jar of honey in their pantry, and that's why they want to have it. Not for any reason that they think there's a benefit. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Jerome, have you tried this both ways? I imagine you probably have in the past, and same with Nicole. Have you tried it both ways?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of carbs before working out. I understand you want full muscle glycogen to allegedly improve your performance in the gym. I think if you're doing an athletic event and you're not fat adapted, an argument could be made to having a small amount of carbs before the event. Like I think Zach Bitter, who's an endurance runner, has some carbohydrate, but the rest of the year he's relatively strict carnivore. If we're talking just in general, I don't recommend carbs in terms of someone's diet, but if you have them and they help you consistently eat and or feel better, then yes, include those carbohydrates in your diet. But a little bit of fruit, a little bit of honey, a little bit of maybe some vegetables, some starches, certainly worse things you could eat. And my goal is for people to be healthy and happy. Those two goals, and kind of whatever gets you there. But just right before the gym, no, I'm not a fan of it. Steve Finney and Jeff Volek's work show that when you're fat adapted, you resynthesize glycogen not only as fast as carb fueled athletes, but you replenish just as much glycogen. Your muscles aren't in a depleted state like is often accused of people that are on ketogenic diets.
Great points. What about you, Nicole? Have you tried it both ways, or have you had any anecdotal experience at all?
Yeah, I've tried it both ways. This morning, actually, I was concerned because I don't typically do well fasted. But I ate like sausage and eggs, 2 bacon cheeseburger patties. I did have some blueberries and all that. So I ate a lot of stuff yesterday, and I felt strong as hell working out this morning, and I've never felt this good working out fasted. So if I were a high carb eater, I would have needed to eat something before my workout in order to sustain it. But because I was high fat, I felt strong and sustained without the crash. And you'll notice a lot of people who do eat carbs before they work out, they're usually taking intra-workout carb drinks and all these other stuff, because you do become depleted at some point during your workout if you're a sugar burner, if carbs are what you're relying on. For me personally, I don't see a problem adding a small amount of carbs in your diet. I think out of the three of us, I'm more so aligned with keto, I guess, ish. So I personally don't see a problem with adding carbs, but it all depends on what your goals are too. And what your overall everyday diet is. But I don't think you need carbs to build muscle or to sustain your workout or whatever. So it just depends on, honestly, preference, what your goals are, and how you're feeling. If you feel better including a small amount of carbs, then live long and prosper, enjoy your workout. But you don't necessarily need the carbs to get strong, to build muscle, to be energized throughout your workout. So it just comes down to preference.
Mm. So Jonathan, if you feel that someone gives you the anecdote, hey, listen, Jonathan, I'm carnivore, but I feel like my performance in the gym is better if I have 25 grams of sugar an hour before I go to the gym. Are you like, okay, great, good on you, have a great workout, enjoy it? Or do you push back against that at all?
That's a good question. And this did come up in conversation today with Bart K, who spoke right now this morning, just about carb intakes and what we recommend. We both actually come to the conclusion it's something like 50 grams a day is pretty innocuous for a lot of people. Not everyone. Maybe some people that are diabetic, maybe they have to really go down to zero. Maybe they'd have to take their protein down to a very baseline level as well. Maybe they just can't deal with so much gluconeogenesis. For me, if I'd usually investigate why. I'd say, like, how long have you been doing this kind of diet for? Is it that you've tried it the other way, but you've tried it for about a week and given up? Or is it you've actually, tried it both ways? You've been strict carnivore, protein, fat for, a month. If after a month they've added it back in, they found a benefit, then okay, fair enough.
Mhm.
Then I'll make a diet or training plan based around all that.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't have any issue with it. I'd just be asking, what kind of things are you having? Then try and align the carbohydrate sources with any symptoms they have if they're ill in any case or suffer from any disease state. So that's pretty the way I'd do it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. I'd lean in that same direction. If somebody said I tried it, no carb, my workouts were garbage, having a little bit of carbs gives me a little bit more jam in the gym. Cool. Yeah, go for it. As long as you're still making progress towards the goal that you say that you want. Awesome.
Yeah.
Types of carbs matter. Don't
Sure.
be eating those Lucky Charms, even though I know Lucky Charms is healthier than beef. Don't be eating your Lucky Charms, but carb sources matter too. So while I promote having minimal carbs, and I think we should all be at bare minimum keto, types of carbs matter. So I just want to caveat what I said and kind of piggyback off Jonathan. Yeah, types of carbs matter. So I tend to stick towards the low sugary fruits, like the lesser of the evils, I call it, like the berries. Sometimes I'll have a handful of cashews. I'll have avocado. So I tend to stick to the low carby carbs, if you will, and the lesser of the sugars. So I just wanted to add that as well, that the types of carbs you are consuming, they matter.
Andrew, I see your question a little bit further down, so we're going to get to that next. But
Yeah.
I saw this and I wanted to ask my two co-hosts today, who's Tim Spector?
I believe I might be wrong. He's a British guy. I think he's a scientist of some kind, maybe a doctor. Probably quite well read, I'd imagine. Now, I've had a lot of people actually say this to me about Tim Spector and say, "Oh, can you look at this guy's video?" It is a long video. I think it's like an hour and a half long. And it's on this channel called Zoe, which is basically a nutrition kind of thing over here where they basically get people on a program and see what happens.
It's
meant to be like a mini
plant-based, right,
study.
Zoe? It's largely like plant-based.
It's like, I think predominantly, yeah, I think you're right there. One of my friends, she was a manager of a health food shop that I used to work at. And she owned that shop for about 30 years. So she's very well read nutrition. So she's mid 70s, I think now. And she's like, yeah, I tried all this stuff and it didn't make a difference. She tried all the Patrick Holford stuff. She tried the Tim Spector stuff. She tried all the traditional kind of methods, grains, whole foods, plants, celery juices, celery fasts, all this sort of stuff. And she didn't get any better for it. So, yeah, I think that sort of video I'd leave to Bart K to critique, really. And he's probably had about 20 people email him already, knowing him. So
nice. Okay, because then I saw Nick's comment too, and when I saw Zoe at first, I thought it was Zoe Harcombe, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize she had a channel, but I guess I'm just way out of the carnivore loop apparently.
Yeah, I didn't know of it until I found out.
Gotcha. Andrew then asked, yeah, what are the best exercises to improve mobility and flexibility as well as strength?
That's a good question.
Core. I've done physical therapy for so long for all my like hips, my knee, all sorts of stuff. And I bought resistance bands and I put them around my either feet or ankles. And I would get down to like a squat and just sidestep across. So it's all about glutes, your core. Most people have weak core, and like when you're sitting up, your stomach hangs over and you're not really bracing your core. Most people, myself included, don't activate their core appropriately, even during exercise. So I think, in my opinion, based off my experience going through physical therapy and working on this very thing, core work is so super important. I would do things like all resistance band stuff. I would put a resistance band, do the side step. I would put it around my like sit down, put it and do like leg raises, like have one leg like this and do leg raises and stuff like that. So I'm a big proponent of strengthening your core, especially when it comes to mobility. Flexibility is a little bit different, but core strength is what I would focus on.
Mm-hmm. Jonathan?
I'm going to say the same thing that Jerome's about to say. It's funny at this point we know exactly what we're going to both mention, but I'd say any kind of exercise that involves, is it a kinesthetic? Is that the word? No, what's the word? Movement. A bit like that.
Kinesthetic would work.
Yeah, that work. I've got Bill. A calisthenic exercise will be sufficient. So what you'll try to do in an example of like a push-up, you get down the push-up position and just see where it is, where your shoulders align, where your elbow aligns, and find an area where you can do that safely without straining your wrists and hands and, I don't know, elbows, your shoulders. For a lot of people, that'll be pretty good. You just actively move through that motion through a push-up, and that will train your mobility and flexibility as well. If you want to train it further than that, you're going to be looking at something like deliberate stretching. So it means like putting your hand behind you or to the side of you out here. Then you'll ideally have a resistance against that, so you actually push against it. You can try something called proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So that's a way of sort of holding the stretch, pushing it a bit, holding a stretch, pushing it. So just gradually add more progression as you go through. Deep breathing is very important as well. It allows your muscle to relax so that the tendinous tissue can stretch properly. Another example, a bodyweight squat. You just sit at the bottom of a bodyweight squat. You can put your elbows and dig them out against your knees, and that'll allow you to stretch out your adductors, your inner thigh or groin muscles, and help you get good depth in the squat as well. But yeah, I think things like that are perfectly fine. A chin up for your back does the same thing. If you in the stretch position, that will do the same job as doing anything else. I think. I think sometimes deliberate stretching for the sake of stretching isn't as good as doing weight training alone. There's a bit of a idea around where, if you do resistance training, you become so muscular that you lose flexibility. I'd argue if you work for a full range of motion at some point in a workout, that won't happen. And I know Jerome can probably cite or mention some studies to support that claim. So I'll leave it to Jerome to explain in a better way.
Yeah, I would start off by saying Nicole nailed it initially. When I think of mobility, I tend to think of just your ability to do most things that you have to do over the course of your day: bend, twist, put your socks on, get up off the couch, stand up, sit down, get out of your car. That's stuff like that's what I tend to think of in terms of mobility. And flexibility, I tend to think as being far more joint specific. A lot of flexibility oftentimes comes down to neurological conditions. So if you think of someone that has frozen shoulder, where they have extreme limitations in their mobility in their shoulder, if you put them under anesthetic, you can articulate that joint through its entire range of movement, as far as it'll naturally go, and there's no limitation. So it shows that that particular limitation. And the other example I use, like bending over, touching your toes and feeling your hamstrings get tight. These are neurological protective mechanisms to prevent your body from getting hurt. So like Jonathan said, stretching sometimes for the sake of stretching, at least if mobility is a goal or flexibility is a goal, isn't always necessarily a good thing. I generally think it is. But anything taken to too far of an extreme is often has, negative returns. Jonathan gave some really thought out, great ideas about how to improve mobility or range of movement or flexibility in a joint, and I would agree with those. I think the name that comes to mind, I believe it's Wayne Westcott, did studies looking at strength training in elderly populations and found that strength training through a full range of movement, at least what felt comfortable for the individuals performing the exercises, provided the same benefits in terms of mobility and flexibility as stretching, either actively or passively stretching. And so generally when I have people do exercises, if they're doing anything full range of movement, I only have them go as far back in a movement, as far back in a chest press, or if they're doing a pullover, I only have them go as far back as whatever feels like a really, really slight stretch in that particular muscle. So in your back or in your shoulder, if you're doing a pullover, in your chest, if you're going all the way down on a chest press, just until you feel just a little bit of a stretch. have a slight pause, and then the smooth change of direction as you lift the weight. But in general, for mobility, yeah, like Nicole said, I would make sure you're doing some kind of direct ab work, include a little bit of rotation of the torso. Don't neglect your lower back, and make sure you're doing adduction and abduction in the hips. And some of the movements that Nicole pointed out, if you have exercise bands and you can get into like a deep squat and do side steps, you can work some of those at the same time. I tend to prefer to work all of those individually, but there's many ways to skin a cat. And if you're doing any direct trunk or core work, it's only going to benefit you. But a lot of times those limitations in mobility come down to certain muscle groups that are involved in that kinesthetic chain being weaker than they should be for that particular movement. And your body neurologically creates an inhibitory signal to prevent yourself from getting hurt. So people that have trouble in forward flexion, trying to bend over and touch their toes, if you just work on bending over and trying to touch your toes, you're overriding that protective mechanism, when in actuality, what you probably have to do is strengthen some of the deep muscles of your lower back.
That's logical, definitely.
But you both had excellent points, and I probably gave the longest rant when really you guys said 95% of everything I just said.
No, so, I knew what you're going to say already, but I couldn't articulate it as well, so I just give a brief little summary.
You guys are so cute.
There's a bromance.
Yes. Yes.
Mike says, I like Smith machine squats because I can move my feet forward versus underneath my body to target different muscle. Yep.
It's a good one. I think the only issue with that is if you make it into a hack squat, so your feet are forward too much, the risk on your lower back will go up quite a lot. And you're limited by the strength curve, you're limited by the fact it's a hack squat. You're not going to be able to squat as much as you could if you used a barbell, in my experience. I've never met anyone that can. That's not to say you have to lift a heavy weight, but I think in terms of maximum muscle recruitment, you're going to get more out of a squat if you had to pick one. But yeah, it's a perfectly good movement. I did a lot of that in my younger bodybuilding career.
The other thing I would say too is if you're doing slight adjustments, you don't have to move very far on a Smith machine, your grip on a barbell or some apparatus, or your feet on a leg press. You only have to move maybe 2 or 3 inches to make a significant shift in the overload of the muscle groups that you're trying to work. Taking your feet just a little bit higher on the leg press is going to hit your glutes and hams a little bit more. Adjusting foot position is going to have the same effect. So you don't have to go super crazy. Maybe it's just like the bodybuilder bro gym mentality that me and Jonathan, a lot of other guys have. You see guys doing really wide
streams,
egregiously wide pull downs, like as wide as they can go. We see some guys bench super, super wide. And really, if you take a fairly shoulder width grip on a bench press and just scoot your hands out maybe 2 inches, a little bit further out to the side, it's going to hit the pec a little bit more than the anterior delt if you would be a little bit further in. And it doesn't take much. It does not take much to shift the overload a bit.
I agree. Yeah, people go to extremes. I think for everything on pretty much every exercise, barring injury or a certain kind of specific skill you're trying to learn, always go in the middle. Middle for pretty much everything. Middle of the grip into that way. Feet position, feet height. The middle is pretty effective. Then the variation, like Jerome says, maybe an inch or two in either direction. It's Halloween next week, apparently.
It is. Can I play something?
Please do.
You should play that during your entire Halloween stream. The entire time.
Just play that. Just sit there and just go like this.
That's one of the videos ideas I've got involved me sitting still for 10 minutes.
Just playing music. I can see Jonathan on screen playing his electronic music, and he's just sitting back and just going for 10 minutes.
Yeah. This song's called "Feeding the Ducks." Rick will
Oh,
love it.
that's the StreamYard music. The StreamYard music's so bad.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not that great. Should we get back to questions now? I think everyone's a bit pissed off.
Sure. I think we got through all the questions, unless there's any more. I will have to go pick up my daughter in about 15 minutes, so now might be a good time for
Sure, yeah.
last call for questions.
Last call. Has anyone said anything controversial? Or does Nicole want to say something controversial?
I think I'm finished with the controversy for the day.
Oh no. It's go ahead, Nicole.
I'm good. I went on an hour and change rant. I think I got it all out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if everyone that's asking in the chat right now that isn't quite sure what video we're talking about, it's not Dr. Chafee's video. It sounds like it is, but it's not. But it'll soon be revealed at some point in the near future. But yeah, I didn't actually know who this was until someone told me to interview them. In which case I asked them 3 times and they said they would, then never did. So, yeah, I don't know. Ask a question.
Yeah.
I've done it before.
Oh, sorry.
I've done it before. I just be cautious if it makes you a bit congested. Some people have a slight intolerance, in which case, bad idea before training. You can't breathe properly. If you're having like heavy cream in a coffee or something, might not be a bad idea. I'd just be conscious of not drinking loads before training because you end up pissing yourself, feeling uncomfortable. I had an awful situation today. I had to interview Bart K at 8:30 this morning, and I got up out of bed, admittedly quite late, at 8:10. So I had 20 minutes to cook and eat my food, and it was scrambled eggs, cheese, and a milkshake made of raw milk and whey protein. I was like, it's like 4 minutes till I was like, you know. So I was rushing it down, basically. Then when I went to train, I didn't train as well. And I think part of that was just the fact I didn't have that time to really get the food in me, sort of thing. So, yeah, next time I know not to take the mic. But no mind.
What do you think, Nicole?
I'm just trying to picture. So I'm very particular when it comes to pre-workout stuff. Even in my previous life, when I was, following the standard American diet of high carb diet, I wouldn't be able to eat. And back when I was running half marathons and stuff, I would not be able to eat within 2 hours of my workout because I will get sick. So things like heavy cream just make me cringe because that banana and stuff like that, that's just like dairy or high in sugar would not set well with me, especially if I'm lifting heavy or if I'm doing some sort of intense workout. I just can't imagine heavy cream for me pre-workout, like doing well for me at all.
Yeah, individuality in it, sure.
Yeah, same kind. My answer would be try it out if you're interested. If it seems like it works, seems like it helps, great, keep doing it. I've never tried heavy cream. I can tell you from experience, eggs are a big no-no for me before a workout, especially leg day. But yeah, you probably don't want to hear the rest of that story. Yeah,
I just find out the time period that you find most effective to eat before your workout. I don't know. I think there's a lot of variability to it. My brother, for example, he finishes work usually at 4 in the afternoon. He starts his day at about 8, and he'll then train at about, I want to say about 5, or maybe he'll have a snack at 3, then train at 4. But I've seen him plenty of times been able to have a meal half an hour before, then train, and have a pre-workout as he's about to start training. So a lot of food in his stomach at one time. Me, I can't deal with that very well. Doesn't feel good. But I found you don't have to necessarily hydrate yourself with water. You can hydrate yourself with foods which happen to contain a lot of water. So things like eggs are surprisingly hydrating for me. Just be conscious if you've got a bad gut, you don't digest them well, like Jerome before leg day, then pick a different food. You know. I think people have enjoyed our answers.
Yeah, and Matthew did at least.
That's good.
Thanks for answering me and everyone's questions in great detail. Cheers, guys. Thank you, Matthew.
Cheers.
Cheers, yeah.
And similarly, Austin, sounds good. Thanks for the advice, guys. Nicole did all the hard work. Jonathan and I are just
I always do all the heavy lifting, man. That's typical, right?
Yeah, we're just here to be eye candy. Jonathan more so than I.
I'm quite old, Jerome. I'm sure these whippersnappers aren't interested in saying
I've got
Jonathan.
over a decade on you, Jonathan.
I'm old enough to be his mama. Call me mama.
I've got more metal in me, broken bones.
That's true.
Yeah, you're pretty much RoboCop at this
Yeah.
point.
It's the bionic man.
I think my right hip will be next. I don't know when, but I've got a strong feeling it will be. I don't know.
All right, so with a couple minutes left, Jonathan, Nicole, what do you guys have coming up on your channels?
I don't know. Probably a lot of crap. What about you, Nicole?
I will be live tonight. That was a nice shot of your big head, by the way. I will be live tonight. I will be live tonight with low carbist Erin, a nice fellow Jersey girl, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the last thing I will say, which I think this audience would like more so than all of my other stuff, is I am doing a live collab with Bart K on, I believe,
I know him.
the 9th, November 9th. I'm doing a live collab with Bart K. It's going to be a marathon live stream. We're going to live stream the entire Anthony Chafee debate, which was almost 2.5 hours. And we're going to critique that whole thing.
It'll take 7 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be a marathon. It's going to be a marathon critique. So that's on November 9th. So if you have like all day, like eight hours to hang with us, we'll be live streaming.
That's going to be one of those famous Carnivore 24-hour a day live casts.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Better you than me. I'm too old.
What happened, Jerome? Well, my hair's gone now, but unless you want to be a little more specific.
Jerome's been on holiday for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the week before, business internet was, and it was actually paid this time because I've had my business internet be out because I just haven't paid the bill. But internet issues, and then was in the Southwest last week.
I'm going to read out the titles to my next videos in no particular order. The Secret PEDs. What is the proper human diet? Who invented the original Carnivore diet? Measure your body fat at home with these 3 simple methods. How to go carnivore and track your nutrition. The dark side of bodybuilding, binge eating. Let's find out who is on the juice. The Paul Saladino Nicole thing. Then 2 interviews with Bart K and probably 2 or 3 segments with Nicole and Nurse Kim from her channel. So I'm up to date until the end of next month, which is good.
Nice. So forgive my naivete, and I'd like you both to answer this. What is Carnivore? Because I just don't know.
It's a load of bollocks. Well, it doesn't make sense, because if you're ketovore, it means you're carnivore in a ketogenic style macro with the emphasis of achieving ketosis, nutritional ketosis. For some reason, it's been butchered and been turned into carnivore plus I eat a few vegetables. I don't know how it. If you talk about the keto diet, you're talking macronutrients. You're looking at like 75% fat plus, below 50 grams of carbs, and the rest being protein. And the emphasis is on achieving nutritional ketosis for a reason, usually a major health concern. That's what Carnivore is, apparently. So
okay. And Nicole, do you agree with that kind of definition?
Yeah, it's essentially yeah. They made it because it's in between, I guess. They were looking at the carb range, like grams, and they were like, okay, it's not 0, it's not 50. We're gonna call it Carnivore, but it's essentially keto. It's for me, it's essentially keto. So when I was Carnivore, I was essentially keto. I think it's like what, less than 20 grams, I think is what whoever came up with it said, or something like that, of carbs.
That's interesting, because I would have thought Carnivore would have been only carnivore foods and probably at least 80% fat is what it would. And
classical keto, yeah. So that'd be my feat. I think 75%, but yeah, 80% as well.
Then I feel like I've seen a lot of people saying they're Carnivore on these beginning carnivore Facebook groups that are having a lot of things that don't fit into what I thought the definition was. So I was just confused.
Or like onions and garlic and lettuce and I don't know.
Basically, Nick, I had a bunch of eggs, and then I had leg day, and then I threw up quite a bit. So eggs are a definite no-go for me before working out, but especially on leg days. And yeah, Paul Saladino is a carbivore.
Yeah. Rick made a really good point earlier about how many carnivores he thinks will exist later on down the line. That's a really good question. I think, well, anecdotally from what I see, not many people are strict carnivore. Not many people do what Dr. Chafee does or Sean Baker does. I just don't see it. I don't see people eating that kind of food. As in like a ribeye on its own. So yeah, I think Nicole gets a lot of grief for her diet or her sort of approach, all things considered, when the reality is if she's below 30, 40, 50 grams of carbs each day, she's matching what everyone else is doing in the carnivore space anyway, if not better. So yeah.
I say leave my blueberries and my tap water alone, people.
I don't drink tap water. I'm not present.
I know I got grief for tap water too. I was like, I've been drinking it since I was a kid. I'm not dead. It's fine.
I can't drink tap water now just because the water here is quite heavy. It's quite hard water. Saying that, it's not the worst. Like you said, I've been drinking it since I was a kid, so if I had to have some, I wouldn't really care. But right now, I spend probably about $1 equivalent a day on water. I usually buy Evian or a mineral still mineral water. Jerome, do you care about water or do you just drink
no, just whatever.
C4s?
Yeah. Well, I grew up kind of out in the sticks, so our water came from a well, and it was really minerally, and I loved it. But a lot of the cities and municipalities I've lived in, the water is pretty heavily treated. I don't give two shits about water. I just drink water.
I'm sorry. So. You said shits.
That's the one water I won't drink is the stuff in the toilet.
Yeah. On the final note, my blood test results came back very positive today. My liver's not in the toilet. It's actually the best it's ever been. For those who don't know, I had a very, very, very major viral infection when I was, I believe, in second year at uni, so about 2016 roughly. I was violently sick every morning for about 3 months straight. I had a cardioesophageal hiatus hernia in my throat from being sick. My liver and kidneys were apparently very damaged at that point. The liver has not been in a good state since. Now, I'm not saying it's been bad. It's just been slightly elevated in a few enzyme markers here and there. But now everything's well within range. It's healthy. It's in the low normal range. So that's a good position to be in. And part of me thinks it's because I lost a bit of body fat. Part of me thinks because I've been quite strict for the most part, just for a few years now. Part of me as well thinks that the dry fit fasting, daily intermittent dry fasting stint I did was very effective for healing. So maybe that did something as well. I'm not using as much drugs as I used to. I'm not using much codeine. I've not touched codeine in about 3 weeks now, which is really good for me. Usually I take some every week or two. So I've reduced my frequency of medication. It's all been quite beneficial. So good to hear it.
Excellent.
All right, Jerome needs to go for a wee now and sort some stuff out.
Yeah, at my age, my prostate's shot. So I'm gonna go change my
tablets for that.
Gonna go change my adult diapers.
You should add some carb.
Can't tell if you're serious or not.
I don't know.
I don't actually have to
be more controversial.
Okay, I was to say that's just a running joke that Jonathan and I have. But yeah, I get it. I'm an old man. I'll just get my walker and get out of here.
Never mind, All right, we'll wrap this one up because everyone needs to go, I think. Anyway, thank you both for joining and co-hosting as well. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everyone in the chat for being here as well. Probably see you next week, ideally, if I'm awake, if I'm around, if my brain works, and ideally these two might be as well. They're welcome to join anytime, of course.
If you're not on, I'll start it without you.
just do it. Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Any last minute words?
No, requests? Thanks for having me on.
Never mind. All right.